Hello. In this week's Torah portion, Yitro, we find the Ten Commandments. They're extremely important, right? Yet, they're not to be found in the Siddur, the Jewish prayer book. Why? The reason is spelled out in the Talmud. They were included in the temple service more than 2,000 years ago and recited before the Shema. Then they were removed. Why? Here's the full story. Quote, the priests in the temple used to recite the Ten Commandments followed by the Shema in its three sections. Vehaya im shamoa tishmeu el mitzvotai, and it shall come to pass if you diligently follow my commandments. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Israel. And the Lord said to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel. And emet veyatziv venachon vekayam, true and certain, established and enduring. Followed by the avodah, the temple service proper with sacrifices, now replaced by the Amidah, and followed by the Birkat Kohanim or priestly blessing. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, the sages sought to recite the Ten Commandments in this manner even outside the temple, but soon abolished them because of the arguments of the Minim, the heretics, that the Ten Commandments were the only valid part of the Torah. It was taught likewise in a Baraita. Rabbi Natan said, later they wished to recite the Ten Commandments even outside the temple, but they had already abolished them because of the arguments of the heretics. Later still, Rabbi Bar Hana sought to reinstitute the recitation of the Ten Commandments in Surah, a great academy in Babylon. But Rav Hista said to him, they already abolished their recitation because of the argument of the heretics. Even later, Amemar sought to reinstitute the recitation of the Ten Commandments in Nehardea, but Rav Ashi said to him, they already abolished them because of the arguments of the heretics. So every attempt to put the Ten Commandments back in the prayer book was rejected. The Jerusalem Talmud echoes this conclusion. Quote, Rav Matana and Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman said, it would be proper to read the Ten Commandments every day. And why don't we? Because of the zeal of the heretics, lest they say, these alone were given to Moses at Sinai. Unquote. So, the Ten Commandments were left out of the service for fear that heretics might argue that Jews need to observe nothing else. They might say, all Israelites receive the Ten Commandments directly from God at Mount Sinai, while the rest of the commandments were communicated through Moses, who may have invented them, so they are not binding. A Midrash quotes Korach, the rebel, telling Moses, when the Ten Commandments were given, there was no mention of Halla or Teruma or tithes or tzitzit. You made this all up yourself. The heretics in question may have been Christians, Gnostics, Samaritans, Hellenizers like Philo, etc. There were many sects operating at that time. Were the Ten Commandments ever included in the liturgy? Yes. The above Talmud quotes testifies to that. Also, a halachic midrash, Sifrei Devarim, discusses including the Ten Commandments in the Tefillin. Indeed, Tefillin found with the Dead Sea Scrolls included the Ten Commandments. The period was the 3rd to 1st centuries BCE. The Nash Papyrus, found in Egypt in 1898 and dated at about 150 BCE, has the Ten Commandments followed by the Shema. But are we allowed to recite the Ten Commandments outside of services? Yes. Jews in Fostat, near Cairo, Egypt, in the 10th to 12th centuries, regularly read the Ten Commandments after services. The Baal HaTurim from 14th century Spain said that people should say them privately before services. Rabbi Yosef Karo from 16th century Israel confirms in his Code of Jewish Law that the ban only applies to public recitation during services. Rabbi Moshe Isserlis from 16th century Poland said that one may recite them privately at any time, but not in public. They are included for that purpose in many modern prayer books, such as ArtScroll. One could ask, however, if they can be recited before and after services, who determines when a service begins or ends? Should one stand while the Ten Commandments are read? For example, should one stand when they are read during services as part of the normal Torah cycle, in Parshat Yitro, this week's Parsha, or Parshat Vayetchanan, or on Shavuot. It's a point of dispute. The Rambam disapproves, saying, quote, "Some think that the Torah contains different levels and some parts are better than others, and this is very bad." But most congregations do it. Should the Ten Commandments be reinstated in our services? On the one hand, one can say, does it make sense to eliminate a very important passage for fear that people will think it's the only valid part? Isn't that cutting off your nose to spite your face? On the other hand, ancient prohibition cannot easily be disposed of. Even liberal congregations do not include them in the liturgy. Also, services are different from study sessions. Services are only for praise, thanks, and petition, things of the heart. Study sessions are only for analysis and understanding of commandments, things of the mind. What's appropriate for one may not be appropriate for the other. Note that some commandments, such as tefillin, tzitzit, and mezuzah, are mentioned in the liturgy, but that is because they are part of the Shema, which Jews are biblically required to recite twice a day. And if we do add the Ten Commandments to the liturgy, why stop there? Why not add more commandments, maybe all 613? Remember that the Ten Commandments are not acknowledged as the most important ones. Judaism does not rank the commandments. The Mishnah says, quote, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi said, "Be as scrupulous in observing a seemingly minor commandment as a seemingly major commandment, because you do not know the value of each commandment." Unquote. So, in conclusion, perhaps it is best to reserve a recitation of commandments for study sessions and leave services only for praise, thanks, and petition. Shabbat Shalom.